Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradari 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 Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Brajajannaranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Brajajannaranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Brajajannaranjana Jaya Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Jaya Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. Could somebody please remind me or put in the chat the verses that we're reading for today?
10, 13, 61.
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, verse 61.
Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of chapters in Canto 10. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, The Stealing of the Boys and Calves by Brahma. We've been on this chapter for a little while, and we're nearing the end. There's only a few verses left. I'll just read the Sanskrit myself out loud. Tatrodvahat Pashupavamsa Shishutva Natyam Brahmadvayam Paramanantamagada Bodham Vatsan Sakin Ivapura Parito Vichinvat Ekam Sapani Kavalam Parameshtyachasta. And I'll go ahead and share my screen here so that devotees can see what I'm reading. Translation. Then Lord Brahma saw the absolute truth, who is one without a second, who possesses full knowledge and who is unlimited, assuming the role of a child in a family of cowherd men and standing all alone, just as before, with a morsel of food in his hand, searching everywhere for the calves and his cowherd friends. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's a slightly extensive purport, so 4 paragraphs. The word aghada bodham, meaning full of unlimited knowledge, is significant in this verse. The Lord's knowledge is unlimited, and therefore one cannot touch where it ends, just as one cannot measure the ocean. Question: why do you think Prabhupada is beginning here in this line of unlimited knowledge in his purport in relation to this verse?
I don't understand the question.
So Prabhupada is beginning his purport with these words, aghada bodha, meaning full of unlimited knowledge. And he's wanting to just, in relation to this verse, the verse says, Lord Brahma saw the absolute truth, who is one without a second, who possesses full knowledge and who is unlimited, assuming the role of a child in a family of cowherd men and standing all alone, just as before, with a morsel of food in his hand, searching everywhere for the calves and his cowherd friends. And so Prabhupada in his purport says, I'm going to start with aghada bodham. It's a long verse. It's Brahma Samhita's meter. So there's a lot of words in there, and Prabhupada chooses to focus on this word aghada bodham, which means full of unlimited knowledge. The Lord's knowledge is unlimited, and therefore one cannot touch where it ends, just as one cannot measure the ocean.
So why does Prabhupada start there?
That's the question. We of course don't know the mind of a pure devotee, but we can think maybe perhaps what might be the correlation or where Prabhupada might be going.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I make a suggestion?
Of course you can, Gail. You're my backup girl in this whole operation, because I always know you've got a question, you've got a realization, you've got the answer.
Oh God, no. But one idea that comes to my mind is that Prabhupada is contrasting the fact that Krishna is looking for his friends and calves, yet that same person is full of unlimited knowledge. He's omniscient. So what's he doing looking?
If I didn't know any better, I'd be thinking that you've been doing this for a long time and must have heard a lot of classes.
I'm just saying, I never, you asked the question, so that got my wheels turning.
Yeah, it's a good answer, and that's what I imagine, that there's this contrast in the verse, which is the whole sum and substance of Brahma's bewilderment, right? The Brahma Vimohan Lilam. Brahma, who's the first created being in the universe, who is Aja, sometimes described, unborn, because he has no material mother and father. He's born directly from the navel of Vishnu. The same Brahma who had this direct vision of Krishna at the beginning of the universe, from which the Brahma Samhita prayers were spoken, and the genesis of the Brahma Samhita prayers that we sing every morning when we greet the deities, we'll do that in a few minutes, that Brahma who saw Krishna, had that vision, forgot again and is now having that same vision again, that realization of this supreme absolute truth. The knower of everything appears to be looking for his calves and his cowherd boys. And so Prabhupada's reminding us the idea of this Leela and to not fall into the trap of Brahma. He's reminding this contrast because Brahma didn't get it. He forgot. He missed it. Prabhupada continues, what is the extent of our intelligence in comparison to the vast expanse of water in the ocean? On my passage to America, very rare, Prabhupada's getting really personal here in the purport. On my passage to America, very rarely you hear Prabhupada use the word my in his purports. Sometimes you might hear him say the word our, but even then it's rare. Prabhupada's getting very, very personal. And it's interesting also to put into context also. It's always interesting to reflect on where Prabhupada was in his journey when he's translating his purports, because sometimes what's going on in the Hare Krishna movement comes out in Prabhupada's purports, where he is in his preaching, where he is in his health, where he is, did he just land in America? Is he in Hawaii somewhere? Is the Hare Krishna explosion already erupted? Is it, and Prabhupada here is, this is the end of the 13th chapter of 10. Like Prabhupada, this is one of the last things Prabhupada said in his time here on earth. And so Prabhupada's becoming very reflective. On my passage to America, how insignificant the ship was. So Prabhupada's reflecting on his whole life. Reflecting, and you can imagine Prabhupada's reflection. He's in Vrindavan, the place that he left from. He's in Vrindavan, the place that he left. And 12 years have gone by. And thousands of disciples and hundreds of temples and countless meetings with... I was listening on my way over here this morning. I was listening to a lecture of Radhanath Swami, and it was at a rainbow gathering. And it was interesting because it was a question and answer session. And you can hear, and there are Western people asking the questions. And so you're getting the sense of this is what, 1980s? And, so you're which, by the way, is closing in on 40 years ago. The 1980s. And there's these Western people asking questions like, if God is one of the questions was, if God is everywhere, and you can find God in everything, you can find God in the stars and the moon and in the sky, and you can see God, you have these beautiful verses in the 10th canto of the Gita and the 7th chapter of the Gita that you can see Krishna and all beautiful things. He's like, can we find Krishna in music, like in the Grateful Dead, or in herbs that we take and when we taste the rainbow here at the rainbow gathering? And Mara said, I don't know what it means to taste the rainbow here at the rainbow gathering. But all these really far out questions people were asking. And so Prabhupada had countless meetings with so many people. And he's reflecting on, I was here in Vrindavan and I got on this little insignificant ship and I came to America and look what Krishna has done. On my passage to America, how insignificant the ship was. And Prabhupada himself, when he was in the prayers of Jaladuta, in his humility, expressed his own feeling of insignificant. He used that very word. How did Prabhupada sign his poems and his letters? No, but when he wrote the prayers in the Jaladuta, he said, you're insignificant beggar. You're insignificant beggar. Last week we were talking about, in class, the idea of being humbled by Krishna. So that sometimes it seems that we're doing everything right. We're doing everything right, but still things don't seem to be working out the way they're supposed to. Anybody ever had that feeling? I'm doing everything right in my spiritual life. I'm waking up when I'm supposed to. I'm chanting the number of rounds they told me to chant. I'm eating the prasadam they told me to chant. I'm waving the incense and the mantras they told me to. And this is supposed to be prasadam. And I'm doing all the services. And I'm serving devotees. And I'm doing everything right. But I don't feel like I'm progressing in spiritual life the way that I want to or should be. Or I don't feel the way that whatever, or things somehow still seem to be going wrong in life. Or things still seem to be challenging. Everything hasn't worked out the way that it's supposed to. I haven't gotten all the things that I'm supposed to be getting in response to my devotional life. That's because Krishna maybe is sensing some sense of, I'm the doer. I'm the controller of my spiritual success. And though there is a sense of responsibility that we have to put ourselves in a place to receive Krishna's mercy, but Krishna is going to continuously, constantly, always remind us that it is Krishna's mercy ultimately at the end of the day. Satchidananda Swami has this beautiful analogy that the doors to the heart, that there are so many doors that we walk through in order to make our way towards Krishna. But the final door to Krishna's heart is a door that opens from the inside. It's a door that opens from the inside. So the most we can do is knock with great fervor. The most we could do is don't want to bang the Bhagavatam here. The most we can do is refuse to go away. That no matter how hard it gets, Krishna, no matter how much you seem to neglect me, no matter how much my ego gets pummeled into the ground, I'm not going away. And so Srila Prabhupada here, after accomplishing so much, considered himself to be insignificant still. And we find these sometimes in the prayers of great, great, great souls. Mother Teresa wrote in her letters, many Christians and Catholics got bewildered reading Mother Teresa's letters that she wrote near the end of her life because she was expressing similar symptoms. Feeling insignificant, feeling ineffective, feeling the absence of God in her life. But it was actually an extraordinarily heightened state of devotion. I'm sure the Prabhupada is expressing that here. On my passage to America, how insignificant the ship was. Continue the purport. Like a matchbox in the midst of the ocean. Krishna's intelligence resembles the ocean, for one cannot imagine how vast it is. The best course, therefore, is to surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada exemplified that the day he left on the Jaladuta, throughout the journey on the Jaladuta. Prabhupada would say, if it wasn't for Krishna's mercy, I would have died on that boat. The captain of the ship remarked how, after the first turbulence of the waters, how he'd never seen the ocean that calm before. And there's a beautiful painting of somebody of Prabhupada making his way at the Jaladuta, and all the incarnations and forms of Vishnu and Krishna are there guiding Krishna along in the ship. I also heard Radhanath Swami speak something over the weekend where he was mentioning that the pleasures and discomforts of the material world that we experience in life are just the details of living in the material world. And that the sum and substance, the most important thing is how can we deepen in our surrender to Krishna. And so Prabhupada's having these beautiful reflections here. That Brahma is noticing that this supremely unlimited Krishna, who knows everything, can't figure out where his cows and cowherd friends are. And so Prabhupada's highlighting that Krishna, in the verse it says that Krishna is Aghada Bodham, his intelligence is unlimited, like the ocean. And when Prabhupada hears the ocean, he's thinking about his own journey in the ocean, his journey across the ocean as he's coming to the end of his life here in the material world. Prabhupada's thinking about the vastness of the ocean and his own experience of the ocean. Prabhupada being extremely reflective. It's saying in the midst of that great, great ocean, the most we can do is what? Surrender. So when life isn't going our way, when things seem to be toppling over itself, when I sometimes feel like I'm going backwards, when I'm not getting the recognition that I want, when the things I think I need for my service aren't falling into place, I have a choice. I can give up and go away, whatever it is, or I can somehow put myself in a position of, how is Krishna calling me deeper into his surrender? How is Krishna calling me deeper into his surrender? I'm just reflecting on this class because I was just listening to it this morning over and over again. That Maharaj was also giving another example of if a parent, let's say a mother or a father has like a 4-year-old child, and that 4-year-old child draws a picture, right? Draws a picture for the parent. Then you were to take that picture and you were to give it to a stranger on the street. Are you to put it up in the Guggenheim? Are you to put it up in the Met? People walk by and be like, what is this? Right? You know, is this something, you'd be looking for some hidden meaning? Is this some like modern abstract of art? You know, or you just give it to somebody on the street. Sometimes you see that. Rana saw me when he's here in town. Somebody will come and give him a little picture and he'll look at it, you know. But to the mother or to the father, it's extremely beautiful. Why? Because they know who it's from someone that they love and someone who loves them. And so similarly, whatever comes to us in our life, whether it seems to be a blessing or a great reversal or a trial or a tribulation, we should know that it's coming from Krishna. And if we don't accept Krishna's hand behind everything, the material world seems very strange and mysterious. And therefore Krishna says in the 18th chapter of Gita, Bhaktya mama vijaranti yavanyaschasmi tattvataha, that one could only understand me through devotion. That otherwise the great mysteries can understand the great mysteries of my understanding. And so the only way we can understand what's happening to us in life is through the lens of devotion, with the faith that Krishna is somehow bringing this to me, not for my material benefit and enjoyment. It may be just the opposite, but it is ultimately bringing me closer to him. I was reading last night in Srimad Bhagavatam, of the 6th canto, the prayers of Vritrasura. And Prabhupada was explaining in the purport about how often Krishna will protect his devotees by withholding certain levels of material opulence. Sometimes in order for a devotee's service, Krishna will bestow tremendous material opulence for the sake of their service. And sometimes Krishna will withhold things simply because he doesn't want us to get carried away. So Prabhupada is reflecting here on this. He says, the best course, therefore, is to surrender to Krishna. Don't try to measure Krishna. Prabhupada says in the last line of that paragraph, don't try to measure Krishna. The word avayam, meaning one without a second, is also significant. So Prabhupada is moving through words in the purport. Because Brahma was overcast by Krishna's Maya. Interestingly, a word sometimes used to define Maya is measure. So Brahma was putting Maya on Krishna, trying to measure Krishna. He was thinking himself the supreme, Brahma. In the material world, everyone thinks, I am the best man in this world, I know everything. One thinks, why should I read Bhagavad Gita? I know everything, I have my own interpretation. Brahma, however, was able to understand that the Supreme Personality is Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Word spoken by Brahma himself. The Brahma Samhita. Another of Krishna's names, therefore, is Parameshwar. Now Brahma saw Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, not demonstrating his opulence, but standing just like an innocent boy with some food in his hand, loitering with his cowherd boyfriend's calves and cows. Brahma did not see Krishna as Chaturbhuja, the opulent Narayan. Rather, he simply saw an innocent boy. So Brahma understood Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all of this glory and pomp and circumstance. Well, when it came to seeing Krishna as this little cowherd boy, he became bewildered. Prabhupada continues. Nonetheless, he could understand that although Krishna was not demonstrating his power, he was the same Supreme Person. So now Prabhupada is speaking of Brahma as having this realization, coming full circle. Now Brahma gets it. People generally do not appreciate someone unless he shows something wonderful. But here, although Krishna did not manifest anything wonderful, Brahma could understand that the same wonderful person was present like an ordinary child, although he was the master of the whole creation. Thus Brahma prayed, Govindamadi Purusham Tam Maham Bhajami. You are the original person, the cause of everything. I bow down to you. This was his realization. Tam Aham Bhajami. This is what is wanted. Vedeshu Durlabham. One cannot reach Krishna merely by Vedic knowledge. Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau. But when one becomes a devotee, then one can realize him. Brahma, therefore, became a devotee. In the beginning, he was proud of being Brahma, the Lord of the universe, but now he understood, here is the Lord of the universe. I am simply an insignificant agent. Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Maham Bhajami. This Govindam is the supreme absolute person, therefore I surrender and worship him. Where in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna give this point? Very famous verse, that when somebody understands Krishna in fullness, the result is that they go back to the spiritual world, or that the result of those souls is that they worship him with love. There might be many, but there's one in my mind that I'm thinking of in Bhagavad Gita. Vas- Is that Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita, which verse? I don't know.
Bhoktaram
Say again.
Bhokta-
There's a lot of verses. We can look at them.
Bhoktaram Yagatapasam.
Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, end of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That one that understands that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the well-wishing friend. Let's look at that verse. There's another verse that I'm thinking of specifically. Bhakti Mama Vijanati, that's from the 18th chapter. Janma Karma Chamedi, the one who knows the science of Krishna, does not return to this material world. Krishna Dai Prabhu is mentioning the end of the 5th chapter. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me, the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Close, but not exactly. They attain peace, but it doesn't mention that they specifically, as a result of knowing Krishna, the result of knowing Krishna is that they therefore engage in his loving devotional service. Vasudeva Bhagavati, I think that verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam. Vasudeva Bhagavati.
Verse something in all full knowledge of me in my devotional service.
Bahunam Janmanam.
Tesham Satyayuktam. Very close.
That's one. I think
That's 10:10. I'm thinking of 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matvad bhajante mam bhuta bhava samanvataha. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the source of everything. Matta sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from me. Iti matva. Those who know this about me, bhajante mam. Engage in my bhajan. Buddha bhava samanvata. With their full self being. I am the source of all spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from me. I am Govindam Adi Purusham. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Exactly. And worship me with all their hearts. Prabhupada in the purport says, a learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds, and because he knows this perfectly, he becomes perfectly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Long purport probably gives there. So there we have, I gotta go back to the verse. Where's our verse? Is it this one? There we are. So Brahma is this example. Govindamadi Purusham, therefore Tamaham Bhajami. Last paragraph of the purport. Then we can open it up to more discussion and questions. Krishna was playing like a dramatic actor. Krishna was playing like a dramatic actor. Because Brahma had some false prestige, thinking that he had some power, Krishna showed him his real position. That's a great little mantra to keep in mind. Because I have some false prestige, thinking I have some power, Krishna is just showing me my real position. That's a nice little meditation. How are you doing? Because I have some false prestige and I think I had some power, Krishna's just showing me my real position. How is that as a flip instead of, you're not treating me the way I'm supposed to, Prabhu. That's not blah, blah, blah. I'm offended, blah, blah, blah. I'm offended. I'm so offended. I'm etc., etc., etc. Because I have some false prestige and thought I have some power, Krishna's showing me my real position. He did that to Lord Brahma, right?
Yeah.
He did that to Lord Brahma. And actually, if we go back to Bhagavad Gita, that same verse 10:8 just a couple verses later, in verse 12, oh no, verse 11, sorry, Krishna says, Tesham evanu kampartam aham agyanatam jam tama nashayam yatma bhavasto jnanadipena bhashvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Sounds so beautiful and poetic, right? It's actually very painful. We all like the idea of Krishna, please dispel my ignorance. Okay, it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be a little hurt. Your ego's going to get bruised. Your reputation's going to get a little bit adjusted. People aren't going to see you the way you may want to be seen. But I'm going to see you the way that I want to see you. And so Krishna destroys in our hearts the darkness of ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge. And so we can just remind ourselves, this is what Krishna's doing. And it's necessary because why? Because we want to be shining lights in the world. If I want to be a shining light in the world, I need the darkness of my ignorance dispelled. So Krishna, please just go to work. Do it gently. Do it at a pace that I can handle. Give me a little anesthesia. Take breaks every now and then so I can recover along the way. But ultimately, that's where we're going. Krishna was playing like a dramatic actor. Because Brahma had some false prestige, thinking that he had some power, Krishna showed him his real position. What's the real position?
Serve Krishna.
To serve Krishna. Dasana Jivera Swarupahoy Krishna Nitya Das. There was once in Prabhupada, it was Shamasundar and Malati Prabhu's young daughter Saraswati. And she would go around and say, do you know who Krishna is? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada said, she's a perfect preacher. Sometimes it's just very simple what we need to know. So like Alan said, that our eternal position is to serve Krishna. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishna Nityadas. A similar incident occurred when Brahma went to see Krishna in Dwarka. We referred to this story before when we discussed this pastime. When Krishna's doorman informed Lord Krishna that Lord Brahma had arrived, Krishna responded, which Brahma? Ask him which Brahma. The doorman relayed this question. Can you imagine giving that service? Go back to Brahma and ask him which Brahma, Imagine like somebody really important comes to see someone, you're like, which one are you? We try to check people in at reception, they get offended. Don't you? I'm a family member here. I don't need to be checked in at the Bhakti Center. Well, we're just trying to keep track of who's coming and for our database, etc. The doorman relayed this question, and Brahma was astonished. Is there another Brahma besides me? He thought. When the doorman informed Lord Krishna, it is the four-headed Brahma, Lord Krishna said, oh, four-headed. Call the others and show him. This is Krishna's position. For Krishna, the four-headed Brahma is insignificant. This word again, insignificant. To say nothing of, quote unquote, four-headed scientists. Materialistic scientists think that although this planet is full of opulence, all others are vacant. So Prabhupada's just taken an opportunity to dig at the scientists. Because they simply speculate this is their scientific conclusion. But from the Bhagavatam, we understand that the entire universe is full of living entities everywhere. Thus, it is the folly of the scientists that although they do not know anything, they mislead people by presenting themselves as scientists, philosophers, and men of knowledge. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, checking out what's going on in the chat. It's backed up, and I'm sorry I can't read everything in the chat. I haven't been paying attention. Any questions, comments, reflections, something that you heard, something that stuck out, a challenge, a question from anybody live in the in-person audience or on the Zoom?
I just love that story more and more.
story.
I just love that story of Lord Brahma when he goes and Krishna's like, which Brahma? And then shows him Brahmas that have millions and millions of heads, and the four-headed Brahma is actually like, that's the smallest one. Like our universe is actually the smallest universe. I like thinking about that, like, wow, if our Lord Brahma has 4 heads, imagine how big the universe is with the Brahma that has millions of heads. Completely, it just blows my mind.
She's only got one mind. And so I think it's really important for us to the why me question comes in so often when things aren't going our way, and to remind ourselves that we're actually in really good, when Krishna humbles us, we're in really good company. That the greatest devotees, Krishna is continuously, nobody gets a pass on becoming free from their ego when it comes to desiring pure devotional service. There's some hands up, and there's a couple hands up, I think, here in the Zoom chat. Are there hands
Andrea.
up? Andrea got hands up.
Hare Krishna, Dayal, Gauranga Prabhu. So nice to see you.
Haribol, Andrea, Devi, so good to see you, and glad that you're here. Hare Krishna.
My question is, towards the end, you had said, you gave like a little example where you were like, Prabhu, I'm not getting my due respect, and then you're like, you kind of alluded to the fact that sometimes when that's happening, that we're just kind of being humbled by Krishna. And my question is, how, because sometimes I feel like sometimes that's used not in a very kind way by other people in terms of how they treat others. You know where I'm getting with this, where they'll be disrespectful, or they'll say things and they'll be like, I'm just here to humble you. Krishna is just using me as a tool to humble you, Prabhu. And so how do we differentiate with that, and how do others not use that in a not compassionate way? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, yes, very good point. And there's a couple of hands up, so I'm gonna answer that briefly. And I'm pointing back to Prabhupada in some ways. Somewhat speaks to that, I believe. In the final purport, Prabhupada says Krishna was playing like a dramatic actor. Because Brahma had some false prestige, thinking he had some power, Krishna showed him his real position. And then Prabhupada goes on into the purport, and he says, yes, when the dormant and four-blooded Krishna, it is four-headed Brahma, Lord Krishna. Oh, four-headed Brahma, call the others, show him. This is Krishna's position. It's Krishna's position to humble us. It's not yours. It's not mine. We should not be so foolish and so puffed up and so self-righteous to think it's my job to humble other people. It's my job. So you read the Brahma Vimohan Leela and you think you're Krishna in this pastime? That's what you take out of it? I'm going to be Krishna in other people's lives. You're Lord Brahma and I'm Krishna. Let's have a dramatic reenactment right here. You be Brahma, I'll be Lord Krishna. I'm going to show you your position. Because that's what Krishna did to Lord Brahma. No, I'm the one being humbled. I'm the one that's showing. And when you look at the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is Srimad Bhagavatam in action, anytime Lord Chaitanya was heavy with someone, seemingly rejected somebody, you'll never find an instance of all the devotees rallying around, like, yeah, that's what you deserve. Yeah, you find devotees rallying around that person. Kal Krishna Das, who was rejected by Lord Krishna. Chota Hari Das, who was rejected by Lord Krishna. The devotees are like, Krishna, maybe you shouldn't go so heavy on them. How can we give some service to Kal Krishna Das? Maybe he should be the one that runs to give inputs and to Mother Sachi over in Bengal. The devotees are more merciful than Krishna. So devotees don't gang up on each other to try to humble each other because, that's what you need, Prabhu. No. Our job is to hold each other, to support each other while Krishna's performing the surgery. We're not the ones performing the operation. We're the ones standing by holding the hands of the patient while they're being operated on. Because why? Because we know what because we're all going through the same thing. I literally was driving this weekend through Brooklyn, and there was a big building, and it literally said spiritual hospital. We talk about it all the time. It was like some big church or something. It was a church. It wasn't an actual hospital, it wasn't a medical hospital. It was like a church, and they were playing on this. This is a spiritual hospital, right? We were talking about that. We're all in the spiritual hospital. We're all patients. We're not the doctors. We're the patients. Krishna's the doctor. And if we're ever in a position to be in that position, we should do it with compassion, and we should allow ourselves to be humble. So we could speak a lot of that, Andrea, but there's a lot of other hands that are up, and we only got 90 seconds left. So I hope that was helpful. Hare Krishna. There's another hand up. I think Ananda Mandri had a hand up.
Yes, but do we have enough time to?
We got time for you. Speak it.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for your answer just now. I really appreciate, especially because it comes from you in a position of a director of the Bhakti Center, and so yeah, it gives me a lot of faith.
Being director in the Bhakti Center is potentially the most humbling thing Krishna's ever done to me.
Which is great to hear.
Find how unqualified and limited you are.
So my question was, you mentioned, it was mentioned that the result of us knowing Krishna is essentially involving ourselves in his loving devotional service.
Say that again.
You mentioned earlier, especially from Bhagavad Gita, that a result of us knowing Krishna is the one who knows Krishna engages in devotional service. And yet it's also said that we can only know Krishna through devotional service.
Yes.
So can you speak on that?
Yes. When we know Krishna, we perform devotional service, but we can only know Krishna when we perform devotional service. That is the definition of sadhana bhakti, given by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that there are things we do as an expression of love, and there are things that we do to invoke the feeling of love. I love you, therefore I'm doing this. Or I want to feel deeper love for you, therefore I'm performing the acts of love with the fervent prayer and the meditation and the intention that it will bestow upon me love. So love is both a verb and a noun. And sometimes you do the actions of love in order to invoke the feelings of love. So when we're performing our sadhana, it may not be that we're dressing the deities, we're cleaning the temple, we're serving Vaishnavas, we're chanting our japa, we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, whatever it might be. It may not be this is an expression of my overflowing love for Krishna. But I want to love Krishna. I know I want to love Krishna. And that is the beginning of spiritual life. That is the hallmark of a devotee. I don't know anything, but I do know that nothing in this world will prove fruitful other than achieving love for Krishna. And therefore I'm going to perform the acts of bhakti until I actually develop the sentiments of bhakti. And it's not an all or nothing. It's not that I have no love and therefore I can't do bhakti. We have some. None of us would be listening to this class if we didn't have some devotion in our heart. And so we take that, that phrase that Vaisheshika Prabhu loves to, has a whole website around, fan the spark. And so there's a little spark of devotion in you. There's a little spark of devotion in all of us. And we use that as a little bit of fuel to do whatever small devotion we can, and we can increase. Because bhakti, there's no limit. It's not like our heart is like a bucket that has a limit to it. There's only so much prema that can go in. No, prema and devotional service is unlimited. It's expansive. Radharani has so much love for Krishna, and it grows every single day. Can you imagine? Don't try to measure Krishna, Prabhupada said in the purport just here. So we take whatever little devotion we have, and we perform whatever service we can in a mood, Krishna, please increase my devotion to you. I hope that was helpful. We have a hand up from Gail, just rifling through until
Hare
they...
Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, there's a million things I want to say, but in connection to Ananda Manjari's question just now, I'm thinking about a point that Dhanadhar Maharaj often makes, to the point of why is it that it is by devotion that you can know Krishna. And he says that it is because a person will only reveal himself to another person if he feels loved by that person. There are certain things that you can't know about me until I, by my own free will, decide to tell you. And I won't, by my own free will, decide to tell you things about personal things about myself unless I'm inspired by the way you have dealt with me, by love that you have shown me, that shows me that I can trust you with my innermost thoughts
Yeah.
and the private side of myself. And so that's why it is by devotion, by love, that you know Krishna, which means it's only by love and devotion that you can understand Krishna. It's not by reading a book. You know, Krishna you can only know him if he chooses to reveal himself. So that was one of a million points I wanted to make. The other one was in relationship to Champa. I also wanted to bring up the fact that there's a million there are Lord Brahmas with 1,000,000 heads, and even those Lord Brahmas with 1,000,000 heads are insignificant. So what to speak
Preach
of
it.
our four-headed Brahma. And just one last thing is, I had a question, but one last thing was that, one last thing is that, when Krishna is putting us in our place, we should be careful, I think, to not project our material consciousness on Krishna, because when we do it to other people, that's not the same mood. The motive that we have is not the same mood in which Krishna does it. Krishna does it for a loving objective, which is that we understand our dependence on him, because it's only when we are dependent on him that we can experience Krishna's love for us. So putting us in our place is not just, look, it's not to show who's boss, is to give us put us in a position to experience his love. Okay.
Got it. You did it. Beautiful, beautiful. And I was just because I don't know if they're ready or we're still waiting for the darshan, but the end on your point is that knowing Krishna is not a static thing. It's not like, yeah, I know Krishna. It's the depth to which we can know Krishna, because Krishna is unlimited. Prabhupada said you can never measure Krishna. So we'll never fully, Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, I know all living beings, but me, no one knows. No one fully knows me. We ready? Okay, we're ready. Go for it. They're going to blow the conch. And so it's not that I know Krishna. It's like I can continuously, eternally know Krishna more and more because he's eternal. So we should never think that we've done it. Now I know Krishna. We're constantly deepening our devotion, deepening our knowledge of Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All of you ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Great class. Hare Krishna. Fan the spark. Thank you for fanning our sparks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, takeaway time, dear devotees. Who would like to go first? My takeaway is that I'd like to go first. My takeaway is that Vaisheshika Prabhu often says, I live to be corrected. It's not that I live to correct others. I live to be corrected. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada gave us this instruction. I want my disciples to become gurus. So we're all gurus in some ways. And correcting, sometimes offering a correction may be something that we'd rather not do. It's a tough service, but sometimes it needs to be done. And it's a very delicate matter. Sometimes, and by example, we can offer correction, not by words necessarily. Right? Adipusha Prabhu always never hesitates to offer a correction for me. Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu, for taking up this service. And I'm resistant like crazy. But Adipusha Prabhu says it's me and Prabhupada and Srimad Bhagavatam on one side, and you on one side, and your uncontrolled mind on the other side. So Adipusha Prabhu is always siding with me against my crazy mind. Bhima Prabhu, who are you siding with?
Haribol Prabhu. Right now I'm in an induced coma in the spiritual hospital. So I don't have much to say. The operations that I need, the corrections that I need are so extensive that they need to put me under. So I'm going to go back to sleep right now, and you guys continue with your comments. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Adipusha Prabhu, would you like to unmute yourself? Angel, can you unmute Adipusha Prabhu? We need to hire a secretary for Adipusha Prabhu. They can mute him and unmute him. So Adipusha Prabhu is hiring a secretary.
Yeah, there's that pastime with Radha Muralidhar where when he was saying we shouldn't try to measure Krishna. You know that? Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, when this devotee refused to measure Radharani.
Well,
He said, I can't.
Somebody wanted to make an outfit for Radharani, and he gave the the Pajori tape measure. They said, "Can you measure Radharani?" And he went on the altar, and he came out. And he was like almost crying, a little Indian guy. And he said, "What's the matter?" He says, "I can't measure Radharani." Interesting devotee's perspective. I can't do it. Hare Krishna.
Nice. Very nice illustration of today's points.
Hare Krishna, can I put a question or two out there?
Well, you had a good question before. You were saying, hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you were saying before about what happens if you think somebody's abusing their power, and or Andrea was actually asking.
Yeah.
And how do you tell? Prabhupada says something about that. He said, if someone offends you, that's their ignorance. But if you take it as an offense, that's your ignorance.
Right.
Right.
But that's not a path to offend others, right?
Yeah.
You can't misuse that principle.
I'm just saying this is what Prabhupada told us. Take it or leave it. Definitely there's other angles of vision.
Okay, I'll take it. But I'm not going to misuse it.
Well, let's hear what Dayal wanted to say.
It sounded like Bhima was trying to say something.
I was just going to say that we should actually feel bad for the person. If somebody says something, we're going to have a natural response, and we're going to feel it viscerally, because of course conditioning, our false ego is always going to have its hairs raised when someone does something that's untoward, and we'll feel the pain. But like Dayal Gauranga said, which I thought was just genius, which is it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt when we ask Krishna to purify us. It hurts. But anyways, we should feel bad, because what's going to happen is we're not going to react to it. We're going to take it straight on as Krishna, because after all, not a blade of grass moves. We're going to take it straight on as Krishna. But as far as that devotee goes, we should actually feel compassion on that devotee, because Krishna says, vengeance is mine, I shall repay. So, if that devotee has done something that is inappropriate, Krishna has a little beat down in store for him or her as well. So when we understand that Krishna is in control, the referee in the ring, so to speak, we actually can learn to take it in the correct way. Also, we make rapid advancement when we see everything coming at us as for our own good, because Krishna is our best friend. Hare Krishna.
Like Dayal Gauranga said, we can see and appreciate the beauty in things that are coming our way when we know who they're coming from. So nicely put. Okay, Adipusha Prabhu, you are muted. You wanted to say something?
I'm waiting to hear what Gail had to say.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, I had a couple of questions, but in connection to what was said just now, I also appreciate Dayal Gauranga Prabhu for giving us the license, permission, whatever it was, to, in those times when we are being chastised by Krishna through others, that, we can ask Krishna to please give me the anesthesia I need, the breaks every once in a while. We can ask Krishna to help us to weather the storm of whatever chastisement we are mercifully receiving.
Krishna knows what he's doing. Painless dentistry,
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's painful, but Krishna, we can ask him for the strength to withstand that pain. But anyway, my question there were a couple questions. One was, Doyle mentioned that one definition of Maya is to measure. So did he mean that it is Maya for us to think that we can measure Krishna? Is that what he meant? Or was it something else? I don't know. crickets.
Maybe he was trying to say that measuring something means I am bigger than I'm the measurer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and therefore
objectifying Krishna and making Krishna an object of our comprehension.
Yeah.
Or putting Krishna in the box. Okay, I know Krishna. Let's move on to the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or sizing up the devotees, judging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In that sense, measuring, like judging, maybe.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. One other question I had was, Doyle Prabhu was mentioning that, Krishna was standing there with the morsel of food in his hands, and he suddenly realized that this Krishna is God, even though he's not manifesting any, godlike opulences. So what was it in that moment? I mean, of course, it is Krishna that allows anybody to realize who he is, but was there any specific incident in that moment of realization that made Lord Brahma understand who it was he was actually looking at? This simple cowherd boy. What was it that gave him that realization? What in that pastime?
Maybe it was that the whole Leela was specifically designed by Krishna for that purpose, to put Brahma, to give Brahma some perspective. Because
yes,
he only realized it after having experienced this bewilderment. Then
yeah, but it seemed like, I'm not seeing what was the catalyst for that realization. Because he saw the same cowherd boy that he saw earlier when he wanted to test who is this boy, right? So nothing about Krishna changed between that time and the time that he realized, what? This is my worshipful Lord. So what was the catalyst for this realization that we're externally didn't seem like...
It's a good question. And the answer is that Brahma became humbled. It's not that Krishna changed. Brahma became humbled and realized that Krishna is so great that he can even appear as a cowherd boy. He became humble to minimize, Krishna can't do that. Well, he can. Wow, Krishna can do that. So he became humble enough to appreciate Krishna. Krishna gave him the grace to see something he didn't see before. No?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good, but that humility, how come all of a sudden he became humble?
Because he saw that Krishna's bewildered him when he tried to bewilder Krishna. So, my God, where are these cowboys? No boys here. I put the boys there, and now they're here. Who are these boys?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
He became out mysticized.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail. And when I'm looking at Bhima Prabhu now, I know who Bhima Prabhu is, and I feel so much love. But if I saw Bhima Prabhu like 3 years ago before I knew him, I would just go by. But knowing who Bhima Prabhu is makes me feel love by looking at him.
You best walk on by me in the street. Because I know you, and I know what you need.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu ki jai, fan in the spark, living to be corrected ki jai, Hare Krishna, staying humbled ki jai. Snow White Krishna and Sita's little Ram, they look so humble. Did you humble them, Bhima Prabhu? How did you humble them? Humble servants.
I make them listen to Bhagavatam. I make them listen to Bhagavatam class with me.
Nice.
And they're like, we're just like you. We're just like you. They say to me, we're just like you. We don't understand anything that's being said either. So we all three of us sit together in confusion and silence Hare Krishna. Wolf.
Thank you, beautiful. Sundaranandaji, Hare Krishna. Would you like to say something? Yeah? No? Brief appearance of Sundarananda Prabhu. Can't hear you. Sundaranandaji Prabhu, we cannot hear you. Cannot. No.
Okay, how about now? Is it better?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Today I was dialed in through a phone line, so yeah, I was audio was separate. Well, so I think I just like Dayal Gauranga Prabhu's, analyzing the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and cross-referencing the verses. I think it's given me a lot of inspiration to spend more time, like in reading the Bhagavad Gita, and maybe even explain it to my kids. So maybe just like Bhima Prabhu said, he's sitting with his dogs. I'm sitting with my kids, and we're all like just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. Yeah, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu knows the subject. He's qualified to speak. All right. So thank you very much. It's Tuesday. Give it to Krishna. Come back tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. And love. It was nice seeing you all, spending the time with you all this morning. This is the highlight of my day. Hare Krishna. I'm glad you exist, dear devotees. Thank you very much.